Hi, everybody. Of course, Craig Peterson here. Thanks for being with us. There is a lot we're going to talk about today. I've been doing videos for the last couple of weeks. Of course, I've done other videos for a long time. But I hope you guys are enjoying these. Let me know. Me at craigpeterson.com. Looking up at my topics for today, we're going to have some stuff about the Russian malware that's hiding in plain sight. The cloud. If it's so secure, why is it still broken? The people who are calling for help and then stealing thousands of dollars, it's a shame. It's really hurt some of our more senior community, particularly. Millions of WordPress sites are getting forced to update a patch, a critical patch. And this is something that I think is going to show us a little bit more about the implications of some of the software we're using, supply chains and all. Some free cybersecurity services and tools. I should do a whole webinar on that one. And that Super Bowl QR code, did you scan that? FBI had a warning if you did. Research showing now Linux and Windows and Mac OS, which is more secure, and why, and then should you be using Linux? And I'll tell you a little bit about using it. Wi-Fi networks and what's on them. It's a very, very big deal. And of course, we're going to be recording the radio show as we go today. So let's get going here. How about... let's see. Okay, we are ready now. This is a big deal, quite literally a big deal. Russian malware. We have been able to track it down now, track it down to a single site. Yeah, all of these bad guys are in one building in Moscow. Hi, everybody. Of course, you're listening to Craig Peterson. Thanks for taking a little bit out of your day today as we continue to really talk about the stuff that's most important in the world. And there could be nothing more important, I think, than some of our cybersecurity, our lives, our fortunes, etc., right? That's what we have to pay attention to. Well, this is a very big story, and it's kind of a bit of a scary one as well. We've had a lot of ransomware over the years, and I mean a lot of ransomware. Have you had it yourself? I bet you if you haven't, you know someone who has had ransomware, because frankly, it is pervasive in every aspect of pretty much everybody's life out there. So when you get hit with ransomware, lately something a little different has happened. It's really gone through three phases. The first phase was the ransomware would get onto your system. Usually it came as an attachment, probably embedded in like a Word file. It's been embedded in PDFs, embedded in all kinds of stuff. Even drive-by downloads on websites have brought malware in. But in this case, yeah, it was annoying. It was a problem. It would give you a red screen. You've probably seen it before, warning about the ransomware. And it told you, okay, here's what you can do to get your files back. And in order to get your files back, you usually would have to go to some exchange online, take dollars, buy, of course, Bitcoin, right, or some other cryptocurrency, and then that cryptocurrency would be used in exchange now for you to get a key that would hopefully decrypt everything. And in reality, it often didn't decrypt hardly anything at all. So it's been a problem, and a problem for a lot of people. The FBI said that at the time, so this is Gen 1 of ransomware, you were lucky if 50% of the time you got all your data back. Gen 2 of ransomware is when the bad guys started getting a little bit smarter, right? They didn't just take your files and encrypt them and then say, hey, pay up, buddy. What they did at this point is they got onto your systems and they poked around. They went what we call in the industry east-west on the network. So they got onto maybe your kid's computer. Maybe you were hooked up via VPN to the office to do work, and it wasn't a great VPN, and the kid's computer had that virus, and that virus weaseled its way all the way over the VPN directly to the office. Because remember, VPNs are a network. Private in that, yeah, okay, it's encrypted, and so someone who's got a wiretap isn't necessarily going to get anything. But it's a VPN, it's a tunnel. And that tunnel was used many times for malware, like ransomware, to creep over to the office network. Well, that's kind of an east-west. It's going from one machine to another machine to another machine. And in businesses, man, you saw that one a lot as that ransomware moved around. So that was the second one. So the ransomware got on the machine. It would then look for files that it thought you might not want to have exposed. So it looked for files with bank account numbers in them, social security numbers, maybe intellectual property. We saw a lot of that theft. It's continuing to go on, primarily from the Chinese. And then an intellectual property theft. What happened next? Well, of course, it ended up moving the data, the files, and then what they would do is encrypt your disk. So before they encrypted your disk, they got copies of all of the stuff they thought might be important to you. So now the threat was, in version 2 of ransomware, pay up, or if you don't pay up, you are going to have to pay us to not release your files. So if you didn't want all of that client information online, if by law you would get nailed for having that client information out online, and that's true in most states now, and the federal government's been putting some teeth on some of their laws as well, then what are you going to do? Well, yeah, you paid the ransom. So that was version 2. Version 3 that we're seeing right now of ransomware is simply destructive. And if you go way back in history, you remember I got hit with the Morris worm, which was one of the first pieces of nastiness out on the internet. And that was early 90s. My business that I owned and was running got hit with this thing. Well, even before that, there was nastyware, viruses, if you will, that would get on the computer and destroy everything. It was just malicious. As I remember right, it was somebody at UC Berkeley, some researcher, and he didn't like what other researchers were saying about him, so he put some floppy disks together, and on them he put this erasing malware and shared all of the stats with anybody. And of course, you plug that disk into that little floppy disk into your Windows computer, and it says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and oh, look at this, a virus, let's run it. And so he then wiped out the computer of everybody else that was a competitor of his out there in the industry. Yeah, a little bit of a problem if you ask me. So how did that end up getting, around? What ended up happening? Well, everybody got really upset with him. Nobody really found out what was happening, who did it, etc. That's what's happening now. So version 3 of malware is like some of the very first malware we ever saw, version 3 of ransomware. So some of that very first ransomware was pretty nasty. It's not the sort of stuff you want to see running, destroying files, but at least you could get back from a backup. Nowadays, a lot of people are doing backups by attaching a disk directly to their machine, or they're backing up to another machine on the same network. Remember that whole east-west thing? You didn't want the data going back and forth, right? It caused problems. Yeah. So what happens now? Well, the Russians apparently are just trying to cause havoc with businesses. Anybody who has decided that they're going to be kind of anti-Russian in any way, they're attacking. So they'll erase your disks, they'll erase all of your data. If you have backups on that thumb drive or that USB external drive, they're going to erase that. If you have backups on another machine on the network, hopefully, from their standpoint, they'll be able to get onto that machine and erase all of your backups, which is, again, why We like 321 backups at the very least. There's some others that are even better. And if you're interested, send me an email, me at craigpeterson.com. I'll send you a webinar that I did on this. You know, I'm not charging you for that, but it was a free webinar to begin with, but a webinar on backup and how to back up properly and why to do it this way. Again, me at craigpeterson.com. Be glad to do that. So what we're seeing now is a huge, huge problem. Let me see if this is going to work for us. Yeah, okay, it is. I am, by the way, live here. There we go. On my computer, so people who are watching can see my desktop. So here we go. This is Russian companies who are linked to this Russian ransomware are hiding in plain sight, is what they're calling it. So what does it mean to hide in plain sight? Well, in this case, what it means is money that's been paid by American businesses to these Russian ransomware gangs, some of who, by the way, are actively going after anyone that criticizes Russia, found these American researchers that it led to one of Moscow's most prestigious addresses. You can see it up here on my screen. This is a New York Times article. It's just a random act of journalism, people. Sometimes even the New York Times gets it right. And they're saying millions of dollars have gone through this. So they've been tracing where did they go. The Biden administration has also apparently zeroed in on the building. It's called Federation Tower East. It's the tallest skyscraper in the Russian capital. How would that be to have a business in just this beautiful tall skyscraper and have a view? That would be really cool. So they have targeted some companies in the tower, as what it's trying to do is stop the ransomware gangs, right? Made in cryptocurrencies. Russian law enforcement usually has an answer to, why don't you just shut down these bad guys that are out there trying to steal all of our money? They say, there is no case open in Russian jurisdiction. There are no victims. How do you expect us to prosecute these honorable people? That apparently is a quote from this Massachusetts-based cybersecurity firm called Recorded Future. But I'm looking at a picture. It's up on my screen right now. You guys can see it. But this is the Moscow financial district called Moscow City, 97th floor, Federation Tower East. This is really pretty. You wouldn't know this isn't like London or any other major European capital. There's some cranes in the background, building up new buildings. The cybercrime is really fueling some growth there in Moscow, which is, if you ask me, the exact reason why Vlad is happy as a clam to just go ahead and have these Russian cybercrime guys just go and bring money in, right? Money is money. It's bringing in great money for them. The Treasury Department, by the way, has estimated the Americans have paid $1.6 billion in ransom since 2011. Huge, huge, huge. One ransomware strain called Ryuk made an estimated $162 million last year. It is really something, let me tell you. So when we come back, we got a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about the cloud. You know, if it's more secure, why is the cloud broken, right? Kind of like if masks work, why aren't they working? Right? Yeah. Anyways, we'll talk about that when we get back, and visit me online, craigpeterson.com. Stick around. Okay, guys, we did that. We got that. So I'm going to take a quick pause, to get a drink of water, and we'll be right back. I hate to say it, but there is another big scam out there right now, and it is hitting many of us, particularly the elderly, quite hard. We're going to talk about that right now, what you can do about it, and how you can recognize when it's happening. Hi, everybody. I'm Craig Peterson, your Information Security Officer. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? And you're listening to News Radio, WGAN AM 560 and FM 98.5. You can join me and Matt every Wednesday morning at 7:34 for The Morning Drive. Interesting article that came out this week in Wired. It's actually in Wired's, let's see, what is it? Yeah, March 2022 issues. It wasn't this week. Never mind. And it's talking about a serious problem. I'm going to show you guys who are watching. I have this on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook as well, so you guys can kind of see along. And of course, right here, too. Now, let's not forget about that. But this is an article that says they were calling for help. Then they stole thousands of dollars. I'm going to read parts of this article. It's just amazing. It's by Becca Andrews. Back channel. What is that? Okay, so that's just a category. On one December morning, my mother's phone rang. She tugged the iPhone from the holster she kept clipped to the waist of her blue jeans and wondered who might be calling. Perhaps somebody from the church who was checking in on her recovery from coronavirus. "Hello," she said. The voice that greeted her was masculine. This is just great writing. The caller sounded concerned, and he told her something was wrong with her Amazon account. "Somebody has access to your bank accounts through Amazon, and they can take all your money. I'm calling to help." Her mind raced. "Oh, Lord," she prayed silently. The voice was warm and reassuring, and my mom tried to focus closely on his words. My dad was driving to work in his truck, and she was home alone. She'd been cooped up in the house for weeks with COVID, isolated from her community, and she missed the balm of a friendly voice. I just love her language here. It's just phenomenal. She tried to steady herself. The man said he needed to make sure the money was safe. He transferred her to a different male voice. Again, soothing, reassuring, calm. She promised not to hang up. A brain injury decades earlier made it hard for her to follow his instructions, but she stuck with it. The voice explained slowly, carefully, how to swipe and tap her phone until she had installed an app that allowed him to see what was happening on her screen. Now he followed her every move. After some hours, she mentioned she had to relieve herself. Hours. "It's okay, I'll stay on the line," he said. She parked the phone outside the bathroom and picked it back up when she was done. As noon approached, she told him, "I have to eat." "I'll wait. It's okay. Don't hang up. We'll lose all our progress." She set the phone down on the counter to make a sandwich, then pulled some chips from a cabinet and padded over to the kitchen table. The phone buzzed with a text. It was my father checking in. She typed back that there was a problem, but she was fixing it. She had it all taken care of. She tapped the tiny white arrow next to the message field to send her reply, and then she heard the voice, its volume elevated. It sounded angry. She frowned and brought the phone back up to her ear. "Why would you do that? You can't tell anyone. What if he's in on it?" She felt confused. That didn't make any sense, but she also didn't fully trust herself. She was worn out from her slow recovery, and the steroids she was taking as a treatment gave her a hollow buzz of energy. Now, I want you guys to go have a look at this over on Wired's site. Read the whole article. It is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But what it's doing is telling the story of this woman who was trying to, kind of do the right thing, trusting other people, which many of us do. I kind of have a default trust with a little trepidation. I will admit that. But with the whole lockdown thing that happened, many of us have just been longing for a little bit of companionship. And to hear a stranger who's trying to help out, well, that's a huge plus. It goes on in this article and talks about how reassuring these guys were and what they did. She installed this Cash App and opened up PayPal, downloaded Coinbase, set up Zelle so she could send money directly from her bank account. She doesn't know about any of these things. It's just incredible. So the afternoon kind of wore on, and the guy said, well, hey, we're almost done. And her husband, of course, was on his way back, and the sun was down. Father got home. He noticed right away that something was off. And she said she took care of it. And he said, you took care of what? I'm not supposed to tell you, it said. So the scammer had siphoned away all of her personal information. The scammers had her social security number, date of birth, driver's license number, and about $11,000. These new financial apps like Zelle and others that are legitimate PayPal apps, right? Zelle you can use to send money legitimately to someone else, but it links into your bank account. That's why I don't like them. I have a friend that's been kind of pushing me. Oh, this app, it's great. It saves you so much money on gas. Look at how much money I've saved. And he sent a screenshot of it. And I went online and had a look. And guess what? I read reviews. It, again, kind of like this, tied into her bank account directly. And what can happen? Well, like here, everything was emptied. So in the next few months, this author of this story and her father tried to undo the damage. Very frustrating. Getting scanned, of course, is really dehumanizing, and it just breaks your trust in other people. How could someone do something like that? It's just incredible. You got to go through the stages of grief and everything. She got, she talked to people. She said she got chilly half replies or just as often silence when she was calling around. Trying to find someone with some empathy, okay? It's just incredible. Great, great article. If you can still find it, the March issue of Wired. I'm sure it's available online. This goes on and talks about her mother's seizures getting worse. And, of course, now they don't have the cash that they had been saving. And it's just very, very depressing. Now, I had this, you might remember about a year ago, I talked about it. I had something like this happen to a friend of mine. And I'm still not quite sure what happened, but it looks like it was a password spraying or password stuffing attack. And they got into the app that his company uses to pay people. And sure enough, they got in and they directed his next 2 paychecks to their own account, which went right out of the country like that. These are bad people. And how do you deal with this, right? How? It's incredible, because if you've got someone like her mother who has mental problems due to no fault of her own and is a very trusting woman, what do? She's walking around all day with her phone on her hip. That's how we started this out. Do you take that phone away from her? That would be dangerous, frankly. So this is a very, very problem. They had a USAA account, was her bank account. USAA is usually good about this sort of stuff. In fact, my other friend had USAA as well. But they did help deactivate Zelle, but they didn't do anything about the $999 that were transferred through it. So very, very bad. So they figured out maybe we should change our passwords. She had them change them. And if you would like information about password managers, again, I'm not selling you anything. I'd be glad to send them to you. If you sign up for my email list, you're going to get them automatically. CraigPeterson.com. I've got a bunch of data, information I want in your hands. It talks about the free stuff, talks about the paid stuff, none of which I'm selling you. CraigPeterson.com. Sign up right there on the top of the page. Thanks. Stick around. All right, everybody. Where's the cursor? There it is. It stopped the radio recording. And that's it for her. Isn't that a sad, sad story? It just bothers me so much. And to see my buddy that this happened to, he's not having the same problem. Hold on a second here. that she had, having had the cerebral accident some years prior. But it happened to him. It happened to my dad. I talked about this a few years ago, where he was having troubles with his computer. So he decided he'd call Microsoft support, right? Kind of legitimate. Well, you might know Microsoft support. I don't even know what it is now, but a few years back it was $300 for an up to 2-hour phone call with somebody who may not be able to help you, but that's Microsoft for you, right? And he had called a number that he had found on Google. Yeah, not good. Okay, I'm going to put a little insert here so I know where we are. Hold on, I'll be right back. So, first off, I got to bring up the right article. I'll let you see what I'm doing here. This is the wrong article because we already did that one. We're going to do this one now. So open that up in a new window, and I am going to grab the top here and put it up behind me on the screen. And we'll just grab that section there. So if you haven't noticed, behind me on the screen, you see, I have up a headline from what we're talking about. I can actually show almost anything behind me, but that's what that is for. So let me go back to that. That's looking good. And I need to actually transfer that to this computer here. So got my little screeny shotty, put it up there, and you might have heard that. Change mice because it's a different computer, and we will open the screenshot here, and we need to get my ATEM open. I don't even see it open here. Oh, there it is. So let's quit it there and let's open it here. This is the switcher that I use, made by Black Magic. And there it is. And I'm going to move it over here. Go ahead. And this I need to bring up to here. Okay, so let's check out my little clip. Get to see all of the behind the scenes stuff. How exciting. Okay, so that is now on the camera behind me. You can see it now about the WordPress plugin. Okay, so let us get going here. And as always, guys, send me an email, me@craigpeterson.com. Let me know what you think about this and this format. I love watching kind of behind the scenes stuff, and I've had a lot of people say that they're liking it too, so I'm leaving it in, at least as much as I reasonably can. Now that's ready to record, so let's go. We've had some serious supply chain attacks over the last couple of years, and they have caused all kinds of problems for tens of thousands of businesses. Well, if you use WordPress, there was one of those this week. Hi, I'm Craig Peterson, your Information Security Officer, and you're listening to News Radio, WGAN, AM 560 and FM 98.5. Join me on Wednesday mornings at 7:34 for the Morning Drive. We cover the latest in, of course, technology. We have had supply chain problems like you wouldn't believe. So let's start out by explaining what is a supply chain problem. Well, and in this case, we're kind of narrowing it down to cybersecurity because we've had supply chain problems from everything from our toilet paper to the food we eat. But what I'm talking about right now is supply chains when it comes to cybersecurity. And one of the biggest problems we had was a company that's supposedly providing cybersecurity for businesses, right? Some of the biggest businesses in the world. And I'm looking at an article right now from Security Boulevard saying how to protect the supply chain from vulnerable third-party code. Well, it can be a script that's downloaded online. It can be an open source library. We've seen big problems with GitHub lately and pulling in libraries. We've seen big problems with what are called containers lately, which are little mini versions of computers with all of the software there, all ready to go, ready and roaring to go. All kinds of supply chain issues for a very long time now. And these supply chain cyber attacks have been hitting some of our cybersecurity companies really the hardest. I'm pulling this up on my screen right now. If you're watching this on Rumble or on YouTube, and you can see links to those, by the way, in my emails that I send out every week, craigpeterson.com, craigpeterson.com. But you can see here, supply chain hits cybersecurity hard. Supply chain security is not a problem. It's a predicament. That's an interesting look because we have to use some of the supply chain stuff, don't we? CISA, the FBI are issuing cybersecurity advisories because of the Russian attack over on Ukraine and in the U.S. The weakest link in supply chain security. Fears of rising fuel, CISA, FBI, NSA, international partners issue advisories. Toyota stops production after possible cyber attack at a supplier. Isn't that something? This goes on and on. So what's a guy to do? Right? Well, many of us are using websites in order to run our businesses. Heck, we got websites for our soccer team, for the kids, right? We got websites for pretty much everything that's out there today. And those websites need software in order to run. So the basic idea of the website is nowadays you're using a content management system. They're called CMSs. And there have been a lot over the years. I've used quite a few myself, off and on. This is very interesting, though, because this particular piece of code is code that runs a website. I'm going to show you this article from Ars Technica here on the screen. But it's talking about millions of WordPress sites that got a forced update to patch critical plugin flaws. So when we're talking about supply chain, in this case, we're talking about something called WordPress, right? And this WordPress software, as good as it is, can have bugs. So WordPress is the content management system. So you load stuff up into it. In fact, I'll bring up my site right now. So I'm going to bring up the craigpeterson.com site. And on my site, I have all kinds of stuff, which is why it's so slow to load. I've got to fix that one of these days. But this is an example of a WordPress site. So you can see right at the top of the site, I've got watch this week's show, jobs, what's up. Of course, that was last week. You can watch it on Rumble or on YouTube, and then it's got my latest show. So if you click on one of these, here you go, and you can listen to it. It starts right out here. Apple has upended a lot of industries. So there you can listen to my podcast right there on the site, and I've got an automated transcript of it. It's for you, depending on what you want. It's got links over here to take you to iTunes or YouTube or Spotify or SoundCloud or iHeart or Google Play or Audible, right? All of these links take you to different places. And this site, instead of having to program a site in HTML, what we're doing is we're just putting some data in. So we say, okay, I want a default page. Somebody else has already set it up. Somebody else has already got it all programmed. It just works, right? And it's all right there for me. Here's some related posts on the side. Here's the most popular ones. that we have right now. This is a content management system, and specifically, this, of course, is WordPress. So what happened? Well, if I had and here's what it looks like over on Audible. You can listen for free on Audible. This is what happened this last week. WordPress, which has this great software that I use and tens of thousands of others use out there, very, very popular, in order to make it easy for me to have my website, probably your business, probably your kid's soccer club, you name it, is using WordPress. It's just over the top popular. It is using code that was written by other people. The reason we can make programs so quickly nowadays is we're relying on other programs. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab this program that does this part of what we need to have done, and ta-da, we're up and we're running. I just have to write the glue, right, to put it together, the API calls, whatever it might be. Because the idea is, let's make it easier for programmers. So you've got something called GitHub. Here, let me pull it up so you can see that. You can go online if you're following along at home to github.com. And as it says right there on their front page, where the world builds software. That's a beautiful world, isn't it? That blue. You can kind of see the air around it. And that's what it's doing, is where the world builds software. So let's say we want something. What do we want? Let's say we want something to make a chess program. So we can talk about chess. Oh, and it's saying, oh, well, you have to be logged in in order to be able to do this. So I'm just going to skip that for now. But it would come up and tell me, okay, well, here's all of the chess programs that are out there. And I find one that's close to what I want to do. So what do I do at that point? Well, I'd go ahead and have a look at the license. A lot of the programs up there have a very open license. So I can just take that code, modify it, and I have a chess program without having to write a chess program. It's really that simple. Well, that's part of the supply chain. If you bought my chess program, you would actually not just be getting the code that I wrote, which is typically just glue code with maybe some APIs or application programming interfaces. In other words, using someone else's code would now make it whose program, right? It's like the Pharaoh's barge. It would make it other people's programs, not my program. So you got to figure out what's in my supply chain. I've got a new client. I do work as a virtual chief information security officer. Actually, it's a fractional CISO. And as a fractional CISO, one of the things I have to do is look at the whole supply chain. Who are they buying even physical things from? And could there be injected into their software, into their systems, something that might be coming from yet another supplier, right? Man, does this get complicated very fast. But this week, our friends at WordPress, they went ahead and forced all WordPress sites to update. Very, very good, okay? Otherwise, people could have downloaded a full backup of the sites that are out there. Something you really just don't want to happen. Anyways, go right now, CraigPeterson.com, while the bits are still hot, and sign up right there, CraigPeterson.com, for the newsletter and get those special reports that are going to get you started. Okay, so I went over slightly, so I'm going to move my bumper music. Yeah, I'm going to move that along with the automations for the controls. Now I'm going to write this out to desk. 1155-03. And this one was, of course, on WordPress patches, but more specifically, it was on, well, let's call it supply chain effects WordPress. And that's now written out to desk. So now what I need to do is bounce it to desk. So it's going to go through, and what it does is it automatically moves all of the levers on the screen, if you will, like sliders, you know, like the old ones where you had them on mixing boards. This is just all virtual. And I record every channel individually. Maybe that's overkill, but instead of using a live mixer and making a mistake and not being able to correct it afterwards, I actually do my mixing after I've done the recording. So, and I've got automation set up for doing all of that. So that is now pushed out to disk. And so now we're going to do segment 4. So I'm going to stop recording and be right back. 86th birthday. So let's see. Pull this stuff up. By the way, his what would she be? Grandmother. Yeah. Lived to be almost 100 years old. Okay, so I'm going to get this ready for the back. Okay, are we really to this one already? We are, yeah, okay. This is going to be fun. So I'm going to grab this. An official website of the United States government. Governmenta. Okay. So we'll leave that there. And I should have turned this so you could see what I was clicking there. But what I can do is show you this. And I am going to send that screenshot I just made over here. These are actually different machines. And I am using a, there it is. I'm using this switcher, this ATM switcher, and I've got them all wired in. So that should be behind me. Yeah, it is behind me. See, there it is. Ta-da, ta-da. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. Okay, so we are ready to start that whole thing going. Okay, so that looks right. Just checking it out. Okay, and got audio. Yep. So here we go. This is the moment you've been waiting for. We're going to talk about free cybersecurity services and tools that you can use. Now, you have to be a little bit of a cybersecurity expert to use them, but not much. This is from the government. Hi, I'm Craig Peterson, your Information Security Officer, and you're listening to News Radio, WGAN, AM 560 and FM 98.5. Join me on the Morning Drive Wednesdays at 7:34 a.m., obviously, and we'll keep you up to date with Matt. This is, I think, an amazing thing. This only came out within the last few weeks. I have it up on my screen. There we go. Right now, for those of you who are watching on Rumble or YouTube, you can see it right there. Free cybersecurity services and tools from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. Reminds me of Marvel with S.H.I.E.L.D., right? That really long name that came up with an acronym for. As though they weren't aiming for that acronym in the first place. But there are some tools that you can use. There's tools that I use as a cybersecurity professional. And some of them are obviously going to be pretty darn complex. And if you're looking at my screen right now, or if you want to go online, at cisa.gov/free-cybersecurity-services-and-tools, or just look it up online. You'll find this on my website as well. I'm going to try to make sure I get that up today. But what they have done is they're showing you what they call their key or their known exploited vulnerabilities. Okay, and this is where they are showing the CVEs, which are frankly, these are the ones that I use. It is published by NIST, which is the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, And this gives all of the details. So this is CVE 2021-27-104. Okay. And this is detail. And of course, I would be using detail, right? And it's telling you, here's the advisories. There's one from GitHub. Excellion has one. Here's the weaknesses, the known software configurations. So you can find where they all are at and everything. So all of the details. So they're telling you about that. These are the ones. This was in the vendor project, I should say. So we'll look at the data added to catalog. Here are a few in Cisco right now. So this is their small business series of routers, which we do not use for anyone because they don't provide the type of security you want. But Cisco is taking care of the problems, right? Many of these update themselves. Here's Microsoft Windows. Installer contains an unspecified vulnerability, which allows for privilege escalation. A lot of stuff this week. This is crazy. Apache Tomcat, which I am never been a fan of, and problems, right? So all of these came out on March 3rd and more, right? So this is just page 1. So let's look at page 2 here. Oh, wow, more Microsoft Excel, Exchange Server, some more Cisco vulnerabilities. Why Cisco? Why Microsoft? Because they are, frankly, the big boys on the block, right? That's why do you rob the bank? Because that's where the money is. So they list all of those right here, as CISA does. They're warning you to use multi-factor authentication. I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'm not going to say use multi-factor authentication today. Okay, I just refuse to say use multi-factor authentication. And this one talks about what it is, right? Many names. Now, they're trying to make this simple, but really, a FIDO key, fast identity online, considered the gold standard of multi-factor authentication. Well, for online it is, websites, but not for others, right? So how would you know that if you weren't an expert? So yeah, this is the government talking, right? And they're here to help. So they have this service. So what do I do, right? Me, Mr. Idiot. I click on this, and they are talking about the service that they've got. I'm showing it up on the screen. It's called CISA Insight. And they're talking about website defacement, destructive malware, NotPetya, WannaCry, right? All these things. What can you do to prevent it? And they kind of make it sound easy. Now, I wanna say something here, because I have a couple of mastermind groups, and in one of my groups, I rescued a group member from a $40-something thousand loss. And so I was explaining it in our next mastermind meeting because everyone wanted to know, what should I do? How should I do it? And they kind of all tuned out. And I thought I was trying to, I was being simple enough, right? I was trying to be simple. Not like simple like Kamala Harris explaining that Ukraine is a country right next to another country called Russia. And that's why there's an invasion. Okay. I couldn't believe that. Did you guys hear that? It was just incredible. But I didn't get that simple. And I know you guys are the best and brightest, and you're trying to figure this stuff all out. And that's why you need to make sure you sign up for my email list right now, because I do have simple step-by-step stuff. And these tools that they're talking about and services are supposedly available. Now, I went to a bunch of these, and I tried to get some services. So they said they'll do a free scan of the network. So I filled it all out. And according to their standards, my company, because I do cybersecurity for everything from government contractors through dentists and manufacturers and distribution companies, right? So I fit the critical infrastructure definition, and I have never heard back from them. I check my spam box at least once a week looking for their reply. So I don't hold up a whole lot of hope, but there is some good information here that you can get, email, via social media, via just all these different types of things that you could use for it. And again, I want you to look for it online. It's on CISA.gov. If you go to their homepage, you'll see their tools, right? They've got a shields up warning right now on their homepage because there have been so many attacks coming from China and coming from Russia, but particularly Russia. And you can see their stopransomware.gov, which has some great tips, particularly for home users and small businesses. The CISA culture, hygiene services that they have, doing business with CISA and careers. They're looking for it as well. Okay, it's part of Homeland Security. So there's a whole lot that you can do and you can find. But I wanted to let you guys know that this is out there. A lot of the stuff, guaranteed, is going to be above 98% of people's heads out there, right? Just in general, even IT professionals. So look for information that's going to help you, that's on your level. And to that end, we have right now 3 things. If you sign up for the email list, or if you're already on my email list, you can just email me at craigpeterson.com, or just hit reply to any of my emails and I'll see it and ask for them. But we've got stuff on your computer, keeping it secure, keeping your password secure, comparison between using a 1Password password manager or using LastPass, which I'm not advising to use right now, but that's in there. There are a lot of different things that are there that are ready for you to get right away. And then if you have other questions, I've got dozens of little special reports that I've written in response to people's questions. Don't be afraid to send them. Send them to me at, me at craigpeterson.com, and I'll make sure I get you an answer because it's that important. Okay, I'm not here trying to sell you something. I am here because most of you guys could never get my services, right? You don't need them, you can't afford them, whatever, right? I'm a fractional CISO. I'm one of the guys that keeps the cybersecurity working and alive for businesses. So, right, it's not going to be everybody, but there is, I should say, a lot of information you guys need to understand, and I want to help you. Okay, I think I've beaten that horse enough, and it was probably past dead. But you'll find some of this stuff on my website at craigpeterson.com. I've been working on some other changes to it. I would also ask you guys, if you're hearing part of the show today, I know a lot of people who are listening on the radio tend to be out and about in their cars listening, on the weekend. I listen to a lot of radio then. But go ahead and subscribe to either my podcast, and there are a lot of ways to do that. And I showed those people who are watching on video how to do that. And if you would, give me a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're using. Hopefully I've earned that. And then also, if you like video, I have my whole show up. It's like about an hour and a half long on multiple platforms. So rumble.com, Rumble, R-U-M-B-L-E, is a competitor to YouTube. So if you don't like censorship, if you want a site that is trying to keep that information out there, get it out there for you, Rumble is your place. You'll find all kinds of interesting characters there, other than myself, right? A lot of conservative people go there, to rumble.com. I have it up on YouTube as well, because YouTube isn't the worst platform in the world. They're also not the best, but they are the biggest. Did you know YouTube is the 2nd largest search engine in the world? Okay, they have a lot of people on YouTube. And then on Facebook as well. You'll find me there on Facebook, of course, Craig Peterson. I had YouTube, Facebook.com/Craig Peterson, and I didn't use it for a long time because I hated Facebook. I looked at it as a time sink that I just didn't need. I got a lot of stuff to do. I got a lot of people to help. And so I didn't really do anything with it. And so somebody else got the /Craig Peterson. But I do have a trick for you. If you go online with your web browser to craigpeterson.com, that's my website, craigpeterson.com/YouTube. It'll take you right to my YouTube page, or craigpeterson.com/Facebook. Guess what? To your Facebook page. craigpeterson.com/iTunes, /SoundCloud, etc. It'll take you right to my page on all of those sites. And have a look at the video. Let me know what you think. I would appreciate that feedback. And make sure you tune in on the radio too. It's great. Don't watch this while you're driving. They're taking the kids to school. A lot of people listen to this while they're taking the kids to school on podcast. Anyways, take care. Thanks for being with us. Kind of a ramble. I don't know. Maybe I rambled. Maybe I didn't. No more than anyone else out there. So I have now got those segments done, and I am going to take a bit of a break because I am needing to do a couple of things. So this is Cybersecurity Tools. Okay. All right, so thank you guys for being with me, and make sure you visit me online. I also have this navigating cybersecurity thing that you can use.